Morning, everyone. So let's start the session. Let me give you a brief introduction of mine, and then we'll. So I'm Kuldeep Ruchandani. I'm a practicing company secretary based at Pune. I've been in this profession for more than 15 years now. Uh, I'm so glad to be a part of this journey of yours of becoming a company secretary. So thank you so much to the Institute for giving me this opportunity to be with all the budding company secretaries here. We'll be discussing one chapter of one subject of your CACET. Okay, let me see. Okay, and so the subject we are going to discuss in this 10 days CACET online classes is economics and business environment. This subject comprises of 5 chapters of economics. First 5 chapters relate to economics, and then the remaining 3 are related to business environment. Start and jump on the topic straight away. So the first question which comes obviously is why economics? Why do we need to study economics? What is economics? And how does it really? Okay, can't hear me. Is it the issue with all? No, I can hear. Okay, great. So maybe issue with some network. Okay, please check at your end. I think you will be able to sort it out. So, what is economics? Economics. Okay, before. Oh, okay. I will increase the volume. I will raise my volume levels. Okay. Now, economics is a social science where we study the scarcity and how people use their resources. We live in a world where we, even though we say there is scarcity, but in terms of one aspect, we have abundance and we are really struggling to make a choice from. So, our life revolves around this question, our ability to make choice. And so is the case every moment of our life, what choices we make. Now, in the context of economics, considering there are scarce resources, decision making becomes very important. And the subject economics is all about that. That how a person will respond to the incentives which are being offered, how he is going to utilize his resources, considering the scarcity around. When this study of decision making is related to an individual, we call that study as microeconomics. But when we study this science of decision making on a larger level or a macro level, on a country level, on a world level, We call this study as macroeconomics. Now, one thing which is very common in economics or any science is we leave some things out when we discuss, we include some things. To give you an example, whenever we are studying a subject of economics, you will always find that there are certain assumptions based on the law of we are going to study. Now, this subject is not new to all of you. You all would have studied this in your 10 plus 2 level, but still we are going to go deeper, dive deeper in this and try to gain more insights on this subject. We'll be covering all the topics from the We'll be covering all the topics from the module only with the material which institute has provided. And one advice from my end will be that ensure that you read each and every statement of this study material if you need to crack, if you wish to crack the exam. I'm sure all of you will clear. Okay, just let me check. Is the volume levels good? Brilliant. Now, as I said earlier, that we are going to discuss about consumer behaviors. So let's talk about one important law which we have to study is law of demand and supply. Now, the law of demand says, and we all know this, without applying to any science, we all have practiced this time and again. For example, when a price of a product goes down and we really are looking to buy that commodity, this study material is available on the website. You can download it. Anyone can download it. So I suggest all of you to please download this material from the ICSI website. If not, if you have not downloaded, then I would, if you just search on the Google, I think you will be able to find out the link. I did the same last evening. So maybe I can pause here for a minute so that everyone downloads the material. We are on the same page. Okay. me to share the link. Okay. Anyone who has got the link, can you please post it for all? I could find it very easily. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yep. So let's start the discussion now on the topic. I hope everyone has got the material. If not, then get it done ASAP. But let's start the discussion. Now, demand is an economic principle referring to consumers' desire to purchase goods and services, willingness to pay a price for a specific good or services. Very simple. When a consumer is willing to buy something at a particular price, that is, we call it as a demand. Now, there are some words which we use interchangeably when it comes to demand. So we have heard this terminology or word called desire. And then we have also heard this word wish. Okay, give me a minute. Yep. Sorry. Now is it better? Yep. So we have used the word desire sometimes, and then we also use the word want sometimes. So let's first understand what is the difference between these three terms. Now, desire is something which I wish. For example, I have a desire that I want to go or I want to have my own Mercedes Benz. That's my desire. I wish for this. I wish to buy that product. But as of now, I don't have any willingness to pay for it. No willingness to pay. And neither, let's say, I have a ability to pay today, nor ability to pay. So when there is a wish which is not backed by a willingness to pay and an ability to pay, okay, voice is the issue with everyone. If not, then I would suggest please check your bandwidth, internet connection. It may be because of that. Yeah. You can join again, please. Yes. Now, when I have a wish and I have a ability to pay also, but no willingness. I can buy a Mercedes, I have an ability to pay, I also wish for it, but on present moment, I don't have a willingness. I don't have a willingness to pay for it. That wish is what I call as want. When there is a willingness, when there is no willingness but an ability to pay, that is a want. And demand is where I have wish plus I have an ability to pay plus I have a willingness to pay. Obviously, at a particular given price, I am willing to pay, I have ability to pay, and I also desire or wish for that product, then that is called as demand from economic perspective. Because unless a consumer is willing to buy and he is able to buy, he's not going to come out in the market and buy the product. So the wish or the desire or simply the want is not going to create a demand for that product in the market. Demand is something where I have an ability to pay, willingness to pay, and also the wish to pay. Clear? So it says demand is an economic principle referring to a consumer's desire to purchase goods and services and willingness to pay for a specific good or services. And when any of this is absent, then it is not a demand. Now, as I said earlier, there is always an assumption which we make when we are studying any law in economics or rather in any law. There are certain assumptions we make and there are certain exceptions also to the law which we study. Why is it so? Because life is very complex, and in a complex world, to simplify things for a mass level, we certain times carve out few things and then we include few things. For example, if I have to give you an example, when you are sitting in a coffee shop and one of the stranger comes to you and asks for a direction, let's say he wants to go to a particular shop and he asks you for a direction, then you will simply direct him. Let's say go out from this store and take a right. Now you have given a simplest direction, and while giving the directions, you have excluded few things in your directions. For example, you have not explained to him what all he will face or come across during his path to that store. We intentionally leave out because to make things simple for him. And similarly, we don't tell him what will be the color of the hoarding of the store. So we leave out certain facts which are immaterial or which are not required. Similarly, in law of demand also, we leave out certain things. We make few assumptions and then only we study the principles. In demand also, law of demand also, we understand, and therefore you will see it starts with other things being equal. Other things being equal, we have a terminology in Latin, we call it as ceteris paribus, means other things being equal, assuming that nothing else changes. Assuming that nothing else changes, if a price of a commodity falls, the quantity demanded of it will rise. So if no other thing changes, everything remains constant, assuming that the world remains the same, if a price of a commodity falls, the quantity demanded of it will rise. Right? So for example, if price of apple falls, the quantity demanded of it will rise. Being a healthy product, people would prefer to buy in more quantity because the price has fallen. And similarly, if the price of commodity rises, its quantity demand will also decline. Because we have scarce resource to utilize, if a price of a commodity is increasing, then obviously I have to fit everything within my budget, and that's what consumer behavior is. Then he will have to make some rational choices, and that choice will be, because the price of a product has increased, I am not in a position to consume the same quantity, hence the quantity demanded will decline. It implies that there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded of a commodity, which means if a price will increase, the quantity demanded will fall, and if the price decreases, the quantity demanded will increase. Now, this choice making which a consumer does is based on budget someone has. To give you an example, let's say there are two commodities. Let's say we have apple and we have mango. Apple are priced at 100 rupees per kg. Mango is priced at 250 rupees per kg. On a horizontal axis, let's plot apples, and on a vertical axis, let's plot mangoes. Now, given a fact that consumer has only 500 rupees, he will be able to buy 5 kgs of apple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or he will be able to buy 2 kgs of mango. Now, if I connect these two dots, this line is what my budget is. Any combination I choose to buy will fall under this yellow highlighted area. It will not go here. It will always be in the yellow area. Any combination and buy. Now, this is again, we say, when I say that resources are scarce, and assuming that if the price of a commodity has increased, the quantity demanded for that will decline. And if I change one factor here, for example, along with the change in prices, if the consumer's income also has increased, if the consumer's income also has increased, let's say the apple are now priced at 150 and mango have increased to 300, but the consumer's income also has increased to 1000, then even though the prices have increased, the quantity demanded for apple and mango may not change. May not change. Why? Because there is a change also in the income. Hence, for this law to hold good, that if the price of a product increases, the quantity demanded will go down, other things have to remain unchanged, then only the whole law will hold good. Hence, the law starts with other things being equal. If nothing else changes, then if a price of a commodity falls, the quantity demanded of it will rise. And if the price of commodity rises, the quantity demanded will decline. Okay. Okay. So in other words, other things being equal, quantity demanded will be more at a lower price than at a higher price. Clear? The law of demand describes what the law of trying to describe. It's this trying to describe the relationship between quantity demanded and the price. So it's a functional relationship between price and quantity demanded. Among various factors affecting demand, price of a commodity is the most critical factor. There are other factors. If income changes, if taste changes, if population changes, if fashion changes, then there will also be change in the quantity demanded. But of all the factors, the most important factor which affects the quantity demanded is price. Hence, the law is trying to understand the relationship between these two components only, that is price and quantity demanded. And hence, while studying the principle relationship between these two factors, what is he trying to do? He is ignoring everything else. Okay, for downloading the material, I think you just need to type CSET ICSI study material and you will be able to find the link. Please do a little bit of Googling and I think you will be able to find it. Now they have given a table. Yes, it's available on the ICSI site. Okay. So the law of demand may be understood with the help of an example which has been given in the material, where they have given in one column. Sorry. Is it back now? The screen? The screen is back. phone issues. Yep. So price per can and quantity demanded, we can see if the price is going down, the quantity demanded is increasing. And if we put it on the graph, if we put it on the graph, the demand curve will look like this. It will always be sloping downwards. Now, what are the assumptions we have made? That other things will remain constant. So what is the other things which will remain constant? So these are the assumptions. Let's discuss it one by one. No change in consumers' income. When there is a change in consumers' income, we saw that there may not be an impact on the quantity demanded if there is an increase in prices, which means if consumer income increases, the quantity demanded may also increase. Second, if change in consumer preferences, so all of a sudden the preference has changed. If a news comes out that cow milk is not good for the health, buffalo milk is better in terms of protein content, and if this results in change in the preferences of the consumer, the demand for the buffalo milk will increase and the demand for the cow milk will decrease, even if the price has not changed. So this will also have an impact on the quantity demanded. Assumption is right. We call it as ceteris paribus. Third assumption we are making, there is no change in the fashion. If something goes out of fashion, even if the price remains the same, the quantity demanded goes down. Similarly, if all of a sudden something comes in fashion, then there will be quantity demanded, irrespective of whatever the price of the commodity is. For example, few years ago we saw that all of a sudden having a spinner in the hand was in fashion. And all of a sudden we saw there was so much of a demand for the spinners. I'm talking about that spinner which you hold in the hand and then just spin it. Next assumption is price of related goods. Now this is something important. If there are two commodities which are related to each other, and then if a price of one product changes, it will also have a change in the demand of others. For example, petrol and automobiles. If the product of car increases, automobiles increases, the quantity demanded will go down, and it will also have an impact on the quantity demanded for petrol because the less number of vehicles will be bought. So any change in price of related goods will also have an impact on the price of another goods which is related to it. Next assumption we make is no expectation of future changes or shortages, which means if I come to know tomorrow that sugar will not be available in the market for next 3 months, then people will start go and buying sugar at whatever price it is available. So is the case with any other goods also. So when I assume there is not going to be any change in future prices or the goods are not going to be available, if I come to know like what we saw in this pandemic situation, all of a sudden when we heard that everyone have to have a mask, initially the prices of masks were increasing, assuming that in future we may not be able to have masks with us till the new stock comes in. And with the lockdown, people started buying masks at whatever prices those were available, even with the sanitizers. So when there is a expectation that the prices will change in future, I will change my choice today depending on whether the price is going to go down further or it's going to go up. If it's going to go down, then I will prefer to hold my decision and buy it in future. But if it is going to increase, then I will buy it now, like what happens in the stock market also. Next assumption, no change in size, age, composition, and sex ratio of the population. If more youth people are there in the population, the product which youth uses more, the demand will of those products will be more. If there are more elderly people in the population, then the demand for the products which elderly people need it more will be higher. So any change in composition of our population, sex ratio of population, size of population will have an impact on the quantity demanded also. No change in range of goods available to the consumer. So if you have more variety of goods available, if you have more players available in the market offering the same product, then obviously the demand is going to go down of a commodity, because now I have a variety of goods available to choose from. No change in distribution of income and wealth of a community. So the purchasing power in the hands of consumer is the purchasing power in the hands of the consumer is going to remain unchanged, and hence there will not be any impact on the quantity demanded because of that. So assumption which we make, because the distribution of income increases, the purchasing power will increase, and then even if the price of a commodity increases, the demand will still remain the same, may still remain the same. Change in government policies, change in weather conditions. If government policy changes, more taxes are levied on a particular product. Let's say the taxes which are levied on tobacco, that's an exception. I know that, but let's say, for example, if taxes are levied more on a particular product or services, then obviously the cost of those product is also going to increase, and hence it will also have an impact on the quantity demanded. No change in weather conditions. If there are no change in weather conditions, and that will also have no impact. So change in weather conditions, how it will impact? If the weather changes from summers to winters, then obviously the demand for summer products, cool products, cold drinks will be impacted, and the demand for woolen clothes will increase. So the weather conditions will also have a change in quantity demanded for certain products which are seasonal in nature. So here we are assuming there is not going to be any change in these factors. If nothing of this changes, then if the price increases, the demand will fall. If the price falls, demand will increase. These are the assumptions which are made. While we study the law of demand. Other things being equal. Now, there are certain exceptions to the law of demand, and the exceptions are: first, given goods. me take a moment and see the questions, if any. Point number 7. Range of goods available to the consumers. Okay. Fidget spinners, right? So point 7 is range of goods available to the consumers. If I have more options to choose from, let's say assuming that there is only one product, one company offering a particular service to me, then I have no choice. It's a monopolistic market. I will have to go and avail the services from that person only. However, if suddenly there are more players offering the same services, then I have variety to choose from, and then I will make a choice based on who is offering me at a lesser price. So if there are more number of players available, that will also have an impact. Similarly, if I have more range of goods to choose from, if you go to buy a mobile, you have a range of goods to choose from, and you go to the market, let's say to buy a particular product. Let's say you decided that you are going to buy a mobile which is Apple, but then when you go there, you have a variety of goods available, options available. You have Samsung, you have Vivo, you have Oppo, you have Redmi, and then you compare and you might change your original decision of buying an Apple product. So range of goods available is more, then obviously it will have a increase or change in the demand, like, yes, like, oh, you're right, like a substitute good. So when I have a range of goods available, then definitely it will definitely have an impact on the quantity demanded, even though the price of the goods have remained unchanged. Point 4 and 5, price of related goods. So related goods, when two commodities are related to each other, now relation can be either they are complementary to each other or they are substitute to each other. If they are substitute to each other, the relationship will be different. For example, Pepsi and Coke are substitute products. It really doesn't matter if I give you, if I give you a cold drink in a glass, uh, you will not be able to identify is it Coca-Cola or is it Pepsi. It's closely related to each other. Those are substitute goods. So if a price one product changes, obviously people will shift to another commodity. Okay, lot of requests coming to repeat some questions, some points. Okay, point 8, please. Change in distribution of income and wealth of community. Change in wealth of community is going to result in change in purchasing power. In today's scenario, when you see that more and more people are sitting at home and are not being paid by their employers, the distribution of income and wealth to the community has been impacted. And hence, earlier, if I, let's say, used to earn 10,000 rupees and now I'm getting only 5,000, obviously the choice making is going to get impacted. So irrespective of the price of goods remaining this getting changed, irrespective of they being same, the purchasing power in the hands of consumers have gone down in today's scenario. Hence, people have made changes in their decision making, and only essential goods and services are being bought. Perfect example in today's scenario. Then there is a request. Example of it is what I gave you the example. In today's scenario, the workers, the migrant workers, they don't have any income in their hand. So because the distribution has of income has changed, it has gone down. You are seeing that the economy is also going down because people are now buying only what is essential. So even though the price of cars have not changed, even though the price of mobile has not changed, we are seeing that the sales have been impacted because of the distribution of income and wealth of the community. Clear? Okay, point 8 is covered. Point again, future changes. Okay, if I know that the price of a product is going to increase in future, then I will buy it more now, even though the price has increased. For example, if tomorrow you come to know today government increases the petrol prices by 2 rupees, and you also come to know that it is going to be increased further after 7 days, even though it has increased today, you will still go and buy because you know it's going to increase further. Similarly, if you come to know that petrol pumps will not be operational for next 10 days, irrespective of what the prices is, you anticipate shortage in future and you still go and buy because there is a shortage going to happen in future. Then this is also impacting your choice making irrespective of what the price is. Now, all these factors which we discussed will have an impact on quantity demanded irrespective of the change in the price. Yes, the video is being recorded by the institute and I think they will make this available also. Point again, okay, distribution of income and wealth. In the present scenario, I gave you the example because not everyone is being paid or having the same level of income as they used to have. Then we have seen the impact of that in the quantity demanded. Exceptions to the law of demand. Now, what are the exceptions? First exception is Giffen goods. Now, Giffen goods is concept which was introduced or named after a guy called Sir Robert Giffen. Now, one important tip here, whenever you see such names being used, please remember these names. MCQs might come. Yes, classes will continue after 6th also. There will be 10 sessions in all. Now, I need to really speed up to cover the remaining portion. In case you have any doubts, questions, please put me on an email. I will give you my email address and mobile number so that you can WhatsApp me also. Giffen goods. Now, Giffen goods is nothing but inferior goods. Now, inferior doesn't mean that the goods are inferior. I'll give you an example to explain this. I am earning 10,000 rupees a month. And my expenditure on my basic necessities, my food require, my rent for the place where I stay is, let's say, around 9,000 rupees. My cost of living is 9,000. I'm earning 10,000. I have 1,000 rupees surplus. So in this 9,000, I'm buying only what is necessary for me to survive. I'm not buying anything additional. I'm buying only those goods which are absolutely necessary for me. Let's say I'm also buying one of the product as wheat, gehu, because that's a basic necessity. In every home in India, we see that people eat chapatis made of wheat. So that's a basic commodity. Now in 9,000, I'm able to fulfill all my needs, and said the price of wheat increases. When the price was same, this 1,000 rupees which I have a surplus, I was using to buy some additional food. For example, I was buying every now and then paneer for the family. Now, if the price of wheat has increased and the price of paneer has, then because of increase in wheat prices, I will continue to buy wheat and not buy paneer because wheat is necessary for me, and compared to paneer, it is an inferior product. So in such situation, people prefer to buy or use their funds, available funds, to buy goods which are inferior to the other goods. But because those are necessary for me to buy and consume, I will prefer to buy those goods and give up on something luxurious. So certain inferior goods are called Giffen goods. When prices fall, often quantity will be purchased than before because of the negative income effect and people's increasing prefer of superior commodity. So examples of Giffen goods are given: bread, rice, and wheat. And if the price of wheat goes down, I will have more income surplus, and then I will go and buy more of a paneer or more of a goods which are more high in nutritional value. So that's an exception to the law of demand where price is increasing, even then the demand is not getting impacted, or I'm buying more rather. And if the price is going down, I'm shifting to a superior quality product, then continue to buy and consume the same product. Articles of snob appeal. Sometimes certain commodities are demanded just because they happen to be expenses of prestigious goods. And we have seen this happening with diamond. When the diamond are costly, their demand is more. When the diamond the price of diamond goes down, we have seen the decline in the demand of the diamonds also. So in some articles there is a snob appeal attached, FOMO, fear of missing out attached. People prefer to buy even though the price of goods is high. Let's say the same is also attached with the luxurious car, Mercedes Benz, BMW. If you find it the price going down, then those people who prefer to buy because it's a status symbol will not buy it, will shift it to another brand. They satisfy the aristocratic desire to preserve exclusiveness for unique goods. Because they are unique, what we see with Apple product also, people stand in the queue for 2 days before the launch of a new iPhone because there is a snob appeal attached to that product. Next, speculation. When people speculate about changes in prices, so in stock market, if I have to give an example, we call it as speculative bubble also. Let's say there is a company whose stock price is going up, more and more investors are buying. Because more and more investors are buying, other investors also jump in the process and starts buying. Let me complete all. I'll cover everything once again. Okay, I will send it to you, no problem. Now, let's say there is a commodity or there is a company whose share prices are increasing. Let's say it was 10 rupees in the morning. After 1 hour of market opening, it became 12. After another 1 hour, it became 15. Now at 15, even though the price have increased, increasing trend in price of a particular stock, some investors will jump in now and buy the product, buy the shares. Let's say it increases to 20 further. Now that is what we call it as speculative bubble. When in speculation, we buy the product anticipating that the prices are going to increase further. The prices are going to increase further, and we see the real estate also happening in Pune. or any other metro city, if the real estate prices, we have seen, because the demand is increasing, the prices also increase. The real estate prices increase and still people prefer to buy and invest, anticipating that in future we may not be able to get the same property in future, or we may get it at a higher prices. So in speculation, I demand for the product, I buy the product even though the price has increased. Hence, the law of demand is defeated here. With increase in prices, I am also increasing in the demand. Consumer psychological bias or illusion. When consumer is wrongly biased against the quality of the commodity with price change, he may contract this demand with a fall in price. For example, we have seen a lot of people attach कि if the goods are priced high, किसी की प्राइस ज़्यादा है तो वो अच्छी क्वालिटी का गुड्स है. When people have this psychological bias कि गुड्स अगर महंगे हैं तो अच्छे हैं, तो अगर किसी कमोडिटी का प्राइस नीचे जाता है तो लोग ऐसा समझ सकते हैं कि उसका क्वालिटी भी नीचे गया है. द क्वालिटी ऑल्सो हैज़ गॉन डाउन. हेंस, irrespective of the law of demand what says ki price goes down, the demand will increase. In such scenario, when consumers feel that price of product has gone down, which means the quality also has gone down, in such scenario the demand may not increase. So the law of demand will get defeated here. So these exceptions are those exceptions where the law of demand is getting defeated. So Giffen goods means inferior goods. The example of inferior goods which they have given is bread, rice and wheat. You can link it to any other inferior good. For example, if you have to buy a mobile, let's say today, you go and buy the mobile today based on your purchasing power, right? Now, tomorrow, if the price of a product increases and your purchasing power also has increased, then irrespective of that, you will not buy it and you will shift it to a superior quality product. And we have seen this when the standard of living goes up, when the purchasing power in the hands of people go up, they shift to a better product and better services. For example, I am earning today only 10,000 and I can afford a house which the rent of which is not more than 2,500, then I will go and live in a locality which is not as per my liking. But because I am earning less, I will go and stay there only. But if the income increases to 20,000, then I will not continue to stay there. I will go and stay in a place where the rent is high, right? Because my purchasing power has increased, I'm shifting to a better quality product. Now that is what Giffen goods is, inferior goods is. If the price of inferior goods increases, then I will continue to buy the same goods even though the price have increased, because I cannot shift it to a superior quality product now. But if the price of inferior goods goes down, then I will prefer to buy a superior quality product. So the law of demand is getting defeated here, because the price of a good is falling down and still the quantity is not increasing. It is also going down because people are shifting to a better substitute. Snob appeal is where status symbol is attached. People, for example, Mont Blanc, a pen worth rupees 50,000 rupees. Now it does the same work what a normal pen will do, 5 rupee pen, 10 rupee pen will do. But still prefer people buy Mont Blanc because there is a snobby appeal attached to it. They will keep it in the pocket, not use it. So they will buy it just to keep it in the pocket and show that I can afford Mont Blanc. There is a snob appeal attached to it. And if tomorrow Mont Blanc's comes down, reduces their prices, comes in the economy range, then there is no more snob appeal attached to it. Then people will prefer to buy something else which where there is a snob, just like Apple products. Speculation I have discussed already. Now let's go to law of supply. We need to hurry up little. Law of demand says the price and demand, quantity demanded, are inversely related. But in supply, price and quantity supplied is directly related. Why? Because higher the prices, higher will be the profits for the supplier. So he will prefer to supply more when the prices are high. And he will prefer to supply less because the profits will be less. So he will supply less quantity. So supply quantity supplied is directly related to price. If price goes up, supply quantity supplied also goes up. If price goes down, quantity supplied also goes down. Now here again there is an assumption like we made. The assumption is everything remains unchanged. Everything else remains constant. If the price increases, the quantity supplied will also increase naturally. If the price goes down, this quantity supplied will also go down. So how much the market can offer is what we call supply. The quantity amount of good producers are willing to supply when receiving a certain price. So quantity supplied refers to amount of good producers are willing to supply when receiving a certain price. The supply of good or services refers to quantities of that good or services that producer are prepared to offer. So at 10 rupees, how much I am prepared to offer is what we call it as quantity supplied. To give you an example, if the price of a product is 10 rupees and it has increased to 11, everything else remains same. There is no change in cost of production. The price has increased to 11 because the demand has increased. I am supplying more. Why? Because I am getting more profits. So price, quantity supplied, higher the prices, higher will be the quantity supplied. Hence the supply curve will be going upwards from left to right, and in the demand curve we have seen it is going downwards, sloping downwards from left to right. So the supply is directly related to the price, demand is inversely related to the price. Now again here there are certain exceptions and assumptions. What are the assumptions? Same assumptions which are there in the law of demand are also more or less applicable to the law of supply. For example, no change in the state of technology. No change in state of technology. If tomorrow the technology, it's a Latin word, ceteris paribus, which means all things remaining equal. So technology, if the technology changes, if because of change in technology, the price, the quantity produced for a commodity has increased, then it will also have an impact on the quantity supplied. So I am assuming there is no change in technology and hence the price has increased and hence the quantity supplied will also increase. No change in the price of factors of production. Factors of production means land, labor, capital. Now, land, labor, capital are nothing but factors of production. If the factory on which the I explained ceteris paribus, it's a Latin word which means all other things remaining equal. Okay, no change in price of factors of production. If the cost increases tomorrow, if the wages to the workers increases, okay, if the price of if the cost of production increases, if the factors of production have changed, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आज अगर हम किसी फैक्ट्री का रेंट 10,000 रुपये है या 1 लाख रुपए है, वो अगर रेंट बढ़ जाता है तो ऑब्वियसली उसका फर्क, उसका इम्पैक्ट कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन पे पड़ेगा, कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन भी बढ़ जाएगी, कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन बढ़ जाएगी तो कंज्यूमर द सप्लायर विल इंक्रीज द प्राइस, वो भी अपना प्राइस बढ़ाएगा. सो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन बढ़ने से क्वांटिटी डिमांड बढ़ जाएगी. ऑब्वियसली कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन बढ़ने से मेरा कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्ट बढ़ गया है, इसीलिए जो मेरे को प्रॉफिट मिल रहा था वो कम हो गया है. सो इसका इम्पैक्ट क्वांटिटी सप्लाइड पे पड़ेगा. हम ये अजम्पशन इसीलिए पढ़ रहे हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल द अजम्पशन व्हाट वी आर ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड इज if the cost of production remains unchanged and if there is an increase in price, then the quantity demanded will also increase. But let's say if the factors of production have gone changed, if the price of those factors have changed, for example, the wages in the factory which I pay have increased by 25%. Now, with the increase in wages, the cost of production also has gone up. The cost of production has gone up means my profit margin has gone down. With the profit margin going down, I will prefer to supply less quantity even though the price of commodity has increased, but the price which has increased is not because of the increase in my profit margin, it is because of the increase in the cost of production. So even though the price has increased, but that price is because of increase in cost of production, then the quantity supplied may not increase, it will remain the same, it may remain the same. Hence, the law of supply is getting defeated here because the price has increased, but the quantity supply is not getting increased as there is no increase in the profit margin. No change in the number of firms in the market. If there are more players in the market, obviously it will have an increase on impact on the prices as well as the demand will also have impact. If there are more number of players, more quantity will be available, then even if I supply more, it's not going to get consumed. So if the price has increased and more players have also entered in the market, then even though the quantity supplied will increase, it will not get consumed. So with more number of firms in the market, the quantity supplied will also get impacted. Hence, it is also an assumption that there is no change in the number of players in the market, and hence if the price increases, the quantity supply will increase. No change in the goals of the firm. For example, I have no change in my strategy, my plan for the company. We saw in Apple, they launch a new product and the earlier version of the product is closed. The production is closed. So when iPhone was launched, iPod was discontinued. even though the demand of iPod was there, because the production was discontinued, the quantity supplied was not increased, even though more and more people were still preferring to buy an iPod. Now, here, why there was no increase in supply even if the prices were increasing? Because the goal of the organization changed. They decided to kill their own product to launch another product. In such scenario, even though the price has increased, but my plan for the organization has changed, I am preferring to launch another product. Hence, the quantity supplied will not get impacted even if the price of product has gone up. No change in seller's expectation regarding future prices. In future, if I expect the prices will increase further, the seller will prefer to hold the stock and sell it in future. अगर कोई कमोडिटी का प्रोडक्ट कमोडिटी का प्राइस फ्यूचर में बढ़ने वाला है, तो कोई भी सप्लायर चाहेगा कि मैं थोड़ा रुक के माल बेचूं ताकि मेरे को ज़्यादा प्रॉफिट मिलेगा. So if I anticipate the prices are going to increase in future, then I will not sell it now. I will hold the stock and sell it in future. So even in case the prices are increasing, I will still not supply it more because I anticipate the prices to go up further. So the law of supply is getting defeated. Hence, this is an assumption. No change in the tax and subsidies policy of the products. Now, if the tax increases, the cost of production increases. If the cost of production increases, the profit margin goes down. But because the tax have increased the cost, the price of the commodity will also go up. Because tax ज़्यादा लगाया गवर्नमेंट ने, तो सप्लायर कंज्यूमर से ही वसूलेगा वो ज़्यादा टैक्स. ऐसे सिचुएशन में प्राइस बढ़ेगी लेकिन क्वांटिटी सप्लाई नहीं बढ़ेगी. क्यों? क्योंकि सप्लायर का प्रॉफिट नहीं बढ़ रहा है. So the fundamental principle of law of supply is, because the price is increasing, it is going to result in increase in profits. प्रॉफिट बढ़ेंगे इसीलिए सप्लाई ज़्यादा करेगा कोई भी सप्लायर. तो जहाँ पे भी ऐसा कोई फैक्टर चेंज हो रहा है जिससे प्राइस बढ़ रही है लेकिन प्रॉफिट मार्जिन कम हो रहा है या नहीं बढ़ रहा है, तो क्वांटिटी सप्लाई पे उसका फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. ऐसे फैक्टर्स को हम assumptions बोलेंगे. These are the assumptions which results in cost of production going up or profit margin going down. Still the quantity supplied will not get impacted because of the shift in prices. Hence, the law of supply is getting defeated. So, for example, in technology, if the technology is improved, my cost of production will go down because the cost of production has gone down. And if the price of the commodity also goes down, will I increase my supply? Yes, I will increase my supply because with lesser tech cost of production, even though the price have gone down a little, my profit margin have increased and I will still supply more. So earlier, if the कॉस्ट वाज 10 बट टेक्नोलॉजी की वजह से वो कॉस्ट अभी 5 हो गई है. तो पहले 10 रुपए कॉस्ट थी, मैं 12 रुपए में बेचता था, 2 रुपए प्रॉफिट मिलता था. अब टेक्नोलॉजी अच्छी लगाने से मेरा कॉस्ट 5 रुपए हो गया है. एंड अगर मैं 8 रुपए में भी बेचता हूँ, स्टिल प्राइस 12 से 8 हो गया है. आई विल स्टिल सप्लाई मोर बिकॉज माई प्रॉफिट हैज इंक्रीज फ्रॉम 2 to 3 per commodity. So price going down, still supply increasing is an exactly opposite of what law of supply says. Hence, we say state of technology remains unchanged, and if prices increases, the supply will increase. No change in yes. So no change in tax and subsidy policy of the products. So if the tax increases, the cost increases. If the cost increases, the price increase. If the price increase but no change in profits for the supplier, he will not supply more. He will continue to supply the same quantity. Now that's what law of supply says. If the price of commodity has increased, the supply will increase. But because this increase in price is because of increase in taxes, no share is going in the pocket of supplier, no profit is accruing to supplier. Hence, there will not be any change in the quantity supplied. Hence, the law is getting defeated. No change in price of other goods. Other goods means those goods which are related to the goods of a supplier. Like in substitute goods, if the price of substitute goods goes up with no increase in the price of my good, the demand will increase because the buyers of the substitute goods will prefer to buy my product now. Hence, without any change in prices, the supply will increase. That is also where the law of supply is not holding good. Law of supply says price increase, supply increase. Here, price is not increasing, but supply is increasing. That is happening. Why? Because the price of the substitute goods have increased, and hence consumers have shifted to another product, my product now. These are assumptions of law of supply. If everything of what is written remains the same, and if price increase, supply will increase. Price decrease, supply will decrease. Right? So we saw the assumptions. Now, what is equilibrium price? It's the price where both demand and supply forces meet. Let me give you another example here. Yep. Now, let's say the quantity supplied, let's say the product is mineral water bottle. Now, we have seen that commodity like mineral water, there is a price which is attached in the minds of consumer. It is, for example, 20 rupees. From long time we have been buying mineral water at 20 rupees per bottle. Now let's say this price is 20 and the price, let's say one of the supplier increases the price to 21 with better marketing, some additional advertisement promos done. He feels that he will be able to fetch more demand and hence to have more and more profit, he increases the price to make it look like a superior product. So he increases the price to 21. Now with increase in prices, he will prefer to supply more. So the supply will also increase. But what happens suddenly, he sees that because he has increased the price, the consumers have now started shifting to another product, their competitor. Because consumers prefer to buy it at 20 only, they are not willing to buy at 21. So the demand is at 20. Even if I supply more, it's not getting consumed. So eventually what supplier will have to do, he will have to reduce his prices. So let's say he reduces prices, comes to 20, and now the demand also resumes. Now this is the point where both demand curve and curve are getting crossed. This point is called as equilibrium price. It's the price at which the buyer is also willing to buy and the seller is also willing to sell. This is how the price of a commodity is decided. Now, with reduction in price, if the price goes down, the demand will increase. So the question will come, so sir, why not reduce a price further and bring it to 19 so that the demand increases? Possible, very much possible. And what Jio did for while launching his product, his services was he offered the services at a lesser cost so that to outsmart or outperform the competitors. So sometimes this works, sometimes this doesn't. For example, if reduction in price, if I bring it to 19, the demand increases, but the demand increase is not sufficient to recover my loss in profit. At 20, I'm earning profit, which is let's say 2 rupees. Now, if I reduce price to 19, my profit margin has gone down from 2 to 1, which means at 19, if I sell double the quantity, then it is okay to sell at 19 also. But the real gain will be at 19, my sales increase more than double. Then only I will have gained by reduction in prices. Now, if at 19 supplier feels that the demand has increased, the supply has also increased, but it has not gone beyond double, then there is no point in reducing the price to 19. Then he will prefer to sell lesser quantity at 20 and maintain the profit margin. So that is where supplier also feels that 20 is the right price for me to sell because it is helping me to maintain a profitability. And buyer also is willing to buy at 20 because that is where buyer also feels that okay, this is aptly priced. Hence, this is what we call it as equilibrium price. And in the industry, all the suppliers will prefer to have their price which is very close to the equilibrium price, where the quantity supplied is equal to quantity demanded. This is the point at which demand and supply curves in the market intersect. So at equilibrium, there is no shortage, no surplus. All what I'm supplying is getting consumed. Again, that happens very rarely in the industry, but that's what we started in the beginning also. There are always assumptions when you study the law. There is no shortage or surplus unless a determinant of demand or determinant of supply changes. So what we have studied till now, we have studied the relationship of quantity supplied with price. We have studied the relationship of quantity demanded with price. And we have also studied that it's not only the price which impacts the quantity supplied or quantity demanded, there are several other factors also. But we have kept all other factors constant, and then we have saw that the price will have an impact on quantity demanded, which is inversely related, and price and supply are directly related. Now, if we are clear about this, we now move on to the physics. Okay, it's about time already, but let me tell you elasticity of demand. What is elasticity of demand? Now, elasticity of demand is nothing but the percentage of responsiveness of quantity demanded to the percentage of change in price. So elasticity is responsiveness of demanded to a commodity to changes in one of the variables. So if price is changing, the quantity demand is also changing. So if price changes by 10%, how much is the change in quantity demanded? That measurement yardstick is what we call as elasticity. So how much it changes? We saw that it changes. Price increases, demand goes down. Price goes down, demand increases. So we saw that with change in prices, demand increases or decreases. But how much? That study, that part of the science is what we call as elasticity. Now, why it is important to understand elasticity? So that the supplier also understands how much is going to be the increase in demand if my price goes down. In the above example which I said, if I reduce the prices to 19 and if I can anticipate that the quantity demanded will increase by more than double, then I will prefer to reduce the prices. Now, unless I know how much is going to be the change, the science is of no use to me. Now, as I said, my mobile number is and my email ID is 9822202890 and kuldeep.ruchandani@gmail.com. So please send your queries, if any, on this number. I will reply to it within 24 hours. So elasticity can be of various types. For example, change in price also will give change in quantity demanded. Similarly, change in income of a consumer also will have an impact on quantity demanded. So there are these two types of elasticity. Price elasticity. Price elasticity is the responsiveness of change in quantity to the change in price. And income elasticity is responsiveness of the quantity demanded to the change in income. And then there is third, which is cross elasticity. As of now, let's focus on price elasticity. Why we are understanding price elasticity? Because it is important for us to know how much is going to be the change in quantity demanded because of the change in price. So the price elasticity is measured vis-a-vis change in price. Income elasticity is measured vis-a-vis change in the income. Clear? So let's stop here, because if I go further, we will not be able to complete, and it's time already 9:15. We'll start from price elasticity, complete the second chapter, and move on to the second in the second class. There are going to be 10 sessions, so don't worry, we are going to cover the entire 8 chapters in this 10 sessions. Some sessions will take, some chapters will take more of a time, but then later on we will not need that much time. Thank you so much, and I will connect with you again on 4th of June, same time, 7:45. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you. Thank you.